let's kick off this podcast the way that you didn't know you wanted, but you actually need, by hearing all the beverages that the host is drinking. Take a sip of the old creatine water. Whew, delicious. Have a sip of my oat milk latte. Oh man, delicious. Have a refreshing sip of the old iced tea. Woo! And have a lime LaCroix. Ooh, delicious. Who's ready to talk about the news? There's a lot to cover, and frankly, I got a lot of time. Let's get into it, everybody. Welcome to the Regular Guy News, the least pretentious name in news. I am your anchor for this evening, this morning, whenever you're listening, Dan Black, and I don't know that much. Welcome to the Dan Black Attack podcast, and we are now focused on the news via the Regular Guy News, which we've turned the podcast into the RGN channel, the least pretentious name in news. I got a lot of questions. I'm a news junkie. I'm watching the news, and I'm like, what's going on? Why can't I get basic details? What are you upset about? Who the fuck are you? What do you know more than me? And so what I do is I dive deep, and by deep, I mean 2 articles deep, sometimes 3. As the president has said, I would say right now I am averaging 2.3 articles deep into a topic that the people need. And let me tell you, the response has been through the roof. People are loving it. And by the way, this podcast is grassroots. This RGN, we are regular guys. And give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Go on podcast, give Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars. And you can write in there why you think something I said is wrong. And I will legally, it's in the contract over here that I'm looking. I'm actually reviewing this contract right now. This contract says that we legally are required to read your review on the podcast. You can tell me why I'm wrong, or be a jerk, and I'll have to read it. And also, we have a special. We actually have one. I mean, let's just get right into it. We have one. The RGN. We have one correspondent out in the field. As always, Erin Finnerty is in the house.
What up, Dan?
Hello, Erin. Welcome to the newsroom.
Hello, Dan. Thank you for having me. I'm reporting live again from...
Yeah, where are you? You're actually, right now, you're in the field right now.
Yes, I'm reporting to you live. I'm coming to you live from the field in my apartment in Los Angeles, California, approximately 1 mile away from your apartment.
My house. I've noticed that. That seems to be your pattern for the past couple of weeks, and
There's been a lot of activity
in the same place.
Well, we're bringing you the late-breaking coverage here at my apartment.
And we'll be doing the Regular Guy News at least through the presidential cycle. The Dan Black Attack podcast will be commandeered. But tell your friends about the pod, and let's get into it, Erin. So on the podcast here, we have something called the RGN mailbag. And Erin is the moderator for this, and you can email us if you have a question for us, something you want us to dive into in the news. Mm-hmm. We will do our best. You email us at regularguynews@gmail.com, correct?
That is correct, Dan.
Have a sip of the old LaCroix.
Creatine LaCroix?
Haven't put the creatine in the LaCroix yet.
Yet.
Not yet. But anyway, Erin, what's going on over in the mailbag?
Well, we received a message in the mailbag this week that is a follow-up on my special report that I delivered on last week's episode of Regular Guy News regarding presidential golfing habits.
Oh, yes. Special report about presidential golfing. Check that out from last week.
Check out last week's episode to learn more. But in short, we learned last week that President Trump golfs a fuck ton, okay?
Right.
He's spent well over $100 million taxpayer dollars on golf outings, but we did discover that there was one president who has out-golfed him by a mile, and that president is Woodrow Wilson. Yep. Now, this week in the Regular Guy mailbag, we received a note from listener Philip H. titled, "A Note on Woodrow Wilson." Philip H. writes, "Hey Dan and Aaron, love the new show. Just listening to your latest episode and wanted to note that Woodrow Wilson was a terribly racist president, like Trump, who had a personal screening in the White House of D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation and praised the movie by saying, it's like writing history with lighting. My only regret is that it is also terribly true. And of course, the movie inspired the resurgence of the KKK. Additionally, he was president not only during World War I, but also during the Spanish flu pandemic. So maybe more commonalities than we'd originally imagined for our top golfing presidents." Love the show.
Wow.
Thank you, Philip H., for that follow-up.
Philip H. with the good information.
Yes.
Good for you.
Wow, great
Hot
information.
intel. I don't know where he got these details, where this intel on Woodrow Wilson came from, but
Well,
I mean, seems legit.
Look, I don't need to be Dr. Tony Fauci to
Uh-huh.
understand that there's probably a direct relationship between golfing and good presidenting,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
I wonder if we could get a graph of that. That might be out of the scope of our technology, but maybe Philip H., who seems to be our mailbag correspondent on the field, maybe maybe you could show me race. I want to see a graph where the x-axis is the horizontal one. I haven't said
X
this
and
in
Y? I
fucking
don't know.
years. I don't
What am
remember.
I?
The
What am
bottom
I,
one.
Microsoft Excel?
Yeah, this is the regular guy news. Come on. I would say the bottom axis is going to be, what would that be? That would be,
Presidents?
would that be presidents?
And then there's two lines on the graph, one that shows how racist they were and one that shows how much they golfed.
Yeah, I didn't think this through. This is a lot to measure. I guess it would be more golfing to racism would be the two, right? It would be something like that. Anyway, I want to measure how much golfing you do to how racist your policy decisions were. I would like to see it. And,
I'd love to see it.
it
Well,
might-
if we have any data nuts out there, go ahead and create that and send it to the Regular Guy News mailbag.
Oh my God. I would love
regularguynews@gmail.
if somebody, listen, I'm looking for an RGN statistician. Okay.
And this will be an RGN exclusive.
And by the way, this is an unpaid position. We
Fully.
could pay you an exposure here on the RGN, but if I could get a statistician to give me some of the dumbest facts and stats, I would love it. All right, well, that's pretty interesting. Woodrow Wilson, also not great. I assume all presidents, if you go far back enough, have some skeletons in their closet. Would you say?
Yeah,
Anyway.
some literal skeletons, maybe. I don't know.
Yes, that's true.
Who's to say?
So, okay, here's what we're diving into this week. Again, another week where I have a list of topics here, and I toss them because the news moves so fast, especially these days. And to jump back into it, coronavirus still very much on the rise here.
I can tell you here, 1 mile away from where you are, the coronavirus pandemic is still waging on.
Right, and you can hear that Aaron's out in the field, so
Yes,
you know
in
it.
the
So you
field,
know
you
it's
know.
true. But Joe Biden yesterday chose his vice presidential running mate by a woman named Kamala Harris, who was very much not a surprise pick by any stretch of the imagination. Her name she ran for president earlier this year, which feels like a long time ago, but also feels like I don't know when. I'm in some kind of time vacuum at this point. Like, you could have told me that was 20 years ago, and I might believe you.
Yes.
But
for what it's worth, Dan, just to fact check you real quick, I believe she dropped out of the race late last year. So
Really?
we're talking all the way back in 2019.
Yeah, you know what? That's right, because he announced in February is when Biden was debating Bernie, right? And in the last debate where Bernie was essentially not even in the race anymore, but still had the debate, and they did it with no crowd because coronavirus was already kind of on the radar, right? It was towards the end of February, I believe, and he had announced that he was dedicated to choosing a female VP running mate. That's when he had said that. So that was February. So it makes sense she would have dropped out because her campaign was not going particularly well, and took a nosedive. But anyway, so the point is that Kamala Harris, here's the deal. I toss everything because he makes his VP pick, and I think about Kamala Harris, and I go, what a great pick. I'm so happy about that. But let's be honest here, and that's the point of the RGN.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that much about her. I mean, and I don't think you do either listening to this. Are you a Kamala Harris head? Have you really dove into it? Because she never really rose to the mainstream platform where they were talking about a lot of her credentials. And that even being said, just Googling, trying to find, just give me a list of Kamala Harris's deal. It's not as easy as you think.
No, you have to be a little specific in your Google search. And I was today, and I found exactly what you're talking about, a list of 50 things you need to know.
Oh, you have 50 things you need to know?
Yes, 55 actually, courtesy of Politico.
Wow. Okay, cool. So we can pepper those throughout here,
yes.
Through my notes. But I looked at a bunch of articles about Kamala Harris, and here's the deal. My point being is that, is Kamala Harris good or bad? A good pick or bad pick? It depends on who you talk to, right? So here, I just want to objectively talk about her deal, okay? Now, in terms of my biases personally, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have problems with her. From just hearing this, and this is going in before we talk about her actual stats and credentials. A lot of the problems I see people have with her are not things that particularly are deal breakers for me and seem a little bit more nuancy. Now, that being said, could be bad, could be she's made some bad decisions. But ultimately, right, I want to know for myself, is this person good or bad? Can they change? Blah, blah, blah. That's what I'm looking to do, okay?
Right.
In the vacuum, is this a good person? Is this person have the credentials for this job? And is this somebody who I think I can trust in this kind of position, who's a heartbeat away from being the president, potentially in a time where this is a 78-year-old weaker heartbeat if Joe Biden gets elected?
Mm-hmm.
It matters more than ever, is what I mean.
Yes.
But Aaron, would you agree? She feels like a strong, great pick. Let's see. Right?
Yes.
So
I will agree with you that she feels like a strong, great pick, and I was happy when I heard that she was selected.
Right. Now, most of that comes from me saying that, let's just be fully honest, all right? RGN, Regular Guy News, what do we know? Is that I've seen her speak a bunch of times. She seems like a smart, proficient person, and seems also articulate. And that goes a long way with me because we've seen some of the stuff we're seeing lately, right?
Right. Yes.
She has a vibe of capable. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I've also seen some of her highlights. They've had some nice pro wrestling moments, okay?
Very important.
Meaning pageantry, which is how you win elections, but also being an effective leader, there is a performance element. She is a performer in that way. Now, that meaning moment when Brett Kavanaugh was being when he had his trial, what is it called? He's being vetted, right? And everyone gets to ask him the questions, interrogated. There's a word for this that is escaping me. I might have too many beverages in the system.
I can't remember.
He has whatever. It's gonna pop.
His confirmation hearing.
Confirmation hearing, Aaron. This is why we have you 1 mile out in the field.
That's exactly right.
And she said to him, "Are you familiar with any other laws? With any laws that govern the male body?" And then he was like, and she goes, "I'll wait," right? And then she just stood there silently. It's a really badass clip, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that matters only because of the society we live in as a pro wrestling fan, which I've said on this podcast, pro wrestling tactics, which manipulate a crowd to be invested into a predetermined dance fight. A lot of that affects our politics. So if you don't respect your wrestling fans, you should actually turn to them if you're trying to understand politics. But those moments matter. I believe 2 moments that won Trump the presidency, I've said them before, were during the debates last time, which is why I'm actually – we'll get into this, but Joe Biden, I think, should not debate. I think he should not debate Donald Trump. I know people disagree with me. I just don't think I don't think Donald Trump has earned a debate with Biden. I think that he doesn't play by the rules of a debate. Debate is a very rules-oriented thing, and I think it's too much. Biden has almost nothing to gain from it. And I don't like Trump breaking with precedent so much. I think he deserves a taste of his own medicine, is my opinion. You know?
Yes.
2 moments. Donald Trump said Hillary Clinton. He said, "Oh, I'm lucky that you're not in charge of the law." And she says, "Yeah, because you'd be in jail." Crowd, it was a drop the mic moment. It was like a 8-mile diss moment. Everyone was like, "Oh, he got her." The timing was incredible. Trump nailed it with the crowd there. Obviously, he should not be in charge, we see, of law and order, but that was a moment we won. Another moment is when they said, "Yeah, he says, I don't pay taxes because I'm smart." That was another moment that I think won him the presidency, because people were like, yeah, all these people who come on their high horse about paying taxes, you're like, no, he's following the law. The law is flawed. But what are you saying? Is that you morally pay more taxes? No one does that. Everyone, including you. We hire accountants. You hire tax people to save you money on taxes. That's what their job is. So, right? You're like,
right.
Oh, like, are you saying Jeff Bezos should just be paying? He should not be using shelter companies and blah, 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 because he's like, moral. That's not how that works. You have this public company. We need the laws to say that they can't do that. You'd be stupid to not do that. That's the kind of talk that you lose people with, in my opinion. Not real talk, you know?
Yeah.
So those are moments. Okay, now, that being said, Kamala Harris had some nice pro wrestling moments. That's my point. And I think she'll be able to debate, if she does debate
Mike
Pence. That's it. But also, let's see. She feels legit. All right, let's get it. She's from California. A senator from California. That feels good to me. Also, Joe Biden, longtime senator from Delaware. I went to college in Delaware, and I live in California. So I feel responsible for these picks.
Okay.
So who is all right, so I Googled around, Erin.
Okay, you Googled around.
And here's my point, is you get so many opinion pieces. Everybody's got a fucking opinion. All right? I guess including me. You can give me shit. I don't mind being a hypocrite. But every piece is like, why you shouldn't be so tough on Kamala. Why her record isn't that bad. And I'm like, I just want to see the deal. And that's not that easy to find.
Agree.
Right. So I found this one article on Business Insider. Did you see this one?
I did not read the Business Insider source. My source is Politico for this one.
And feel free to hit us up.
Those are our 2 sources. We're at the minimum.
If you think these sources are problematic, let us know. We'll say it on here. I'm not married to any of these sources.
You know what? I will also say that I did read a recap of Fox News's takedown on Kamala Harris from yesterday.
Oh, can we bring that up and look at that at some point?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, who is Kamala Harris? Let's start there. So if you don't know who she is, some of you don't know. She's 55 years old. That matters because the president would be 78 years old when Joe Biden would be 78 when he would be confirmed. That's old. Seems to be in good health. Also, Joe Biden, by the way, I watch a lot of Joe Biden, and this is something I'll keep tabs on.
Mm-hmm.
People saying he's demented and doesn't know where he is. If you watch him, that is not the case. Like that, and people who are smart, it's become this talking point. It's just simply, I'm not being like some liberal fucking biased person. I watch him give speeches. It's just not true.
It's just not true. And also, I think that if you would look at people who truly don't know where they are or are actually experiencing real dementia, it does not look like Joe Biden giving an interview.
Right. Absolutely. Like when my grandfather was in his 80s,
mm-hmm.
he was all there, and like I had full conversations with him. You know what I mean? Like he died at 89 years old, I believe.
Right.
And to the end was fully with it. You know, I don't know this. I guess it seems to be effective, but it's this tool that Trump has, which is that he is 74, 5 years old. He's in horrific shape. Horrific shape. Like
horrific shape physically and mentally. Like
yeah.
Camera, TV, man, woman, dog, cat, like whatever. Like, and
Right.
he's proud of passing those cognitive tests. Like, guys, this is not something to brag about.
Those cognitive tests, which are meant to just check if you might have signs of dementia. That's it.
Right.
But yeah. But also the thing about Donald Trump is what he's done is people make fun of his look a lot. His look is another example of the pro wrestling elements of Trump that are effective because people don't talk about how old and out of shape he looks. You talk about how crazy he looks, and that makes you think that he's not old, right? So he's spray painted orange, so you go, he's orange, as opposed to the fact that you talk about Biden's liver spots and stuff, right?
Right, totally. Yeah, like, look at his crazy hair and orange face. You're not talking about how he's old as fuck and like fat and like unhealthy.
Right. It's effective.
But Joe Biden is a healthy person. He's physically active. He is mentally sharp. I know he rides his Peloton every morning.
You could tell the guy has like 10% body fat. He's like slim as fuck. I mean,
right.
It's just like, it's kind of hilarious. Like when you see Trump, watch this clip. There's a clip where like they ask him to like he's giving a press conference at the White House. So there's a shooting outside. So they like are talking to him that he has to like walk out, and he's hunched when he walks out. He's like, you see this on the Zoom videos. He looks like one of those Muppets. Like he's hunched over. He just looks his posture is trash, right? And he looks not in health.
And if you
Biden's
see
like
him from the
agile.
side. Yeah, Biden's agile, 10% body fat. And if you see Trump in profile, like his body, he has like that shelf butt now. Like it's like sticks out and like he's hunched over in the front.
So anyway, I'm not really body shaming Trump. That's not my point. My point is actually to point out that his pro wrestling garb, his like fucking Gorgeous George Hogan hair, because Hulk Hogan is the same exact way. They still called Hulk in wrestling. Hulk Hogan is called the Immortal Hulk Hogan. And when he comes out in WWE, he's so tan. Like, he's
brown.
He's tan to the point that it's arguably problematic, okay?
Yeah. I've seen it. I agree.
Yeah. He's so tan, and then he has literally a bandana on forever, right? And I've said this, but one of my jokes is stand-up jokes is just about how, like, Hulk Hogan wore a bandana in federal court, you know, like just pointing that out. That's not the joke. That's just the punchline, which is not a great way to tell a joke. Here's the you guys reverse engineer that. Figure out what the joke is.
Yeah.
But like, he wears a bandana and then attaches hair to the bottom,
like doll hair.
Doll hair. He can't actually grow the like blonde part anymore.
Right.
You know?
But it detracts from any of us really thinking about how old Terry Bollea is.
Right. Absolutely. And he sprayed that, and then he has a bleach blonde mustache. He kind of looks like the same age for 30 years.
Right.
It's effective, you know? So, like, anyway, you know, that's just to my point. All right, so let's get back to Kamala Harris. Is she good, bad? Hometown. Born in, well, she's from Oakland, California, but she's born in the United States. So don't even start this birther shit. It's already bubbling up. Although I will say this, to be honest, is it actually bubbling up? I don't know. You said the Fox News article.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
or is this just liberals worried about it being bubbling up?
I think it might just be liberals worried about it bubbling up. But I did, as a joke, say, let's see the birth certificate when I learned that she was the child of 2 immigrants, because it would be pretty on brand to make that an issue at this stage.
I think with her, it's pretty clear, just like it was extremely clear with Barack Obama. Attorney General of California from 11 to 2017. So she was the Attorney General. Okay. And she was the district attorney of San Francisco from 2004 to 2011. So, yeah, pretty fucking good.
And 26 years as a prosecutor in the state of California before that. So, like, decades of experience.
Right. Okay, so what let's talk about her thing. What policy positions did Harris run on? So this article lays this out so clear if you're looking for this stuff. Okay. So she originally supported Medicare for all, but then in August 2019 said she was not comfortable with it. So I think this is something she took dings on, is that she kind of would go back and forth a little bit on these issues. That being said, if she's running for VP, she's going to be running on whatever Biden's stance is, which is to expand Obamacare. So I don't know if that matters as much. She said she'd be open to a public option rather than a single payer system, and she introduced legislation to expand mental health care and reduce racial disparities in maternal mortality. Okay. In July 2019, she laid out her proposal to allow the federal government to set prices for certain prescription medications to lower drug costs for American patients. Okay. And she also laid out her health care plan, a form of Medicare for all, which maintains a large role for private insurers. While expanding the program to cover more Americans, it has a 10-year phase-in period. Okay, so that's a bunch of stuff. But ultimately, when you hear what this is, what this means is she's a little bit more of a centrist than Bernie. Not a little bit more. She's more of a centrist than a Bernie Sanders.
Right.
Because she's looking Medicare for all. She seems to be hesitant on Medicare for all, looking for maybe a public option, looking to actually get people covered, but is not fully on board with probably the cost of that. So she's into single payer. Yeah, you can already see the problems with her. She's a little all over the place on healthcare. But that being said, center. So I know this is why I think an example of why people I know I'm surrounded by a lot of extreme liberals had a problem with her to begin with. Is that So, okay. Her and Biden are both not going to be running on Medicare for all. That's something we say. They're going to be running on expanding Obamacare, which is getting that public option in play.
Right.
But she seems to expand. She seems to, what I'm seeing here, if I'm thinking about it for me, maintains a large role for private insurers. That's something again, this is the RGN. This is the Regular Guy News. I don't know how you feel about it. I just think about things in terms of realisticness, right? So we've been talking about, since healthcare has been on the table, let's just say since Obama got in office, it's been more of a big idea, though it's been a big deal since the Clintons were in office, That's a nice retcon for Hillary. I said the Clintons. It was like they were, in my head, they were both the president.
Yeah.
Good for her. That I did that. But so we're not able to get anything done. And I think it's because we have these big lobby groups, and private insurance is a shit ton of money. So, this is where I start, just going practical minded, and I don't fucking know what I'm talking about. But I know that, anyone sitting here being you think that overnight, especially with the economy where it is right now and the fact that we have coronavirus and all these private insurance companies are probably involved in the getting of they're all involved in vaccine stuff, right?
Right.
You think we're going to dismantle that whole industry during this next presidency before we right?
No, especially not with coronavirus on the table.
Right. So we're just going to right. No. So that's where my brain goes, where it's I am in theory a Medicare for all person. I think that I really am. I mean, I've voted for Bernie Sanders. I voted for him in 2 primaries already, right? And that's me voting for the man more than all of the ideas, because I trust him, and I think you need to fight extreme with extreme. But when it ultimately comes down to it, it's like the only way to get this stuff done is by working with people, which seems to be the big problem here. So when I hear somebody is like, oh, well, let's expand private insurance, I'm like, or not expand it. Is that what it said here? It says, which maintains a large role for private insurers. Okay, like healthcare, a form of Medicare which maintains a large role for private insurers. Now I hear compromise is what I hear.
Right.
So, and what all I hear compromise is just our government working, which it doesn't work anymore. So like that's all I hear is somebody with their head on their shoulders there. So I don't know. How does that hit you, Aaron?
It hits me fine. I think that realistically, like you said, you can't dismantle this system overnight. And like, if the goal here is to expand Obamacare, I think that's fine, and leave the private. And part of her plan is to leave private insurers in place for people who use them or want it. And that's okay too. I think, we're just not like Canada or the UK or other nations that have like universal health care right now. And you can't, especially with this pandemic, it's impossible. There's no way just to make that change. So I think somewhere in the middle is probably the wise choice. It's like you said, realistic.
Right. I think long term we need something like Canada has. Like I think right. Like I think we do need a state system. I think everybody wants that. I think that's where the politics get in the way. But until we take private industry, but if we're going to overhaul that overnight, that's just a non-starter.
It's impossible. Yeah. I mean, it would be really cool though to like just go and get fixed for free without any issue.
Right. I mean, so healthcare is so it's it's going to have to happen over time, and we have to find something. It's right. So, but Obamacare was that. Mm-hmm. So, like that's the thing about Biden is like, even though again I voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary because my thought process was Bernie Sanders would come in our extreme political age, come in extremely left, which would push us to the middle. Mm-hmm. This was pre-Corona, by the way, primary votes for California.
Right.
Corona coming in, and how crazy shit's gone. I've been like, man, I just want like people who have level heads and can get something done. And I feel confident about this. We'll see how I feel when it goes down. That being said, I mean, I'll vote against Trump. It could have been anybody, really, for me. Okay, so let's talk about immigration for a second. Okay, so first off, she calls, she's against Trump's border wall, if that matters.
Wow.
She calls it a medieval vanity project.
Great.
She supports Obama's administration's DACA program.
Right.
Okay, so
Dreamers.
I mean, Dreamers. DACA's just for me is a non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, these. I really want you to think about this, people, because think of this in like a human aspect of it. Okay. I've known someone whose kids are dreamers.
Yeah, I have a friend who is a dreamer.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you actually talking about? Like, are you really? I think there's so much like bluster and pageantry here, and I don't think people are as. I think I'll be honest. I think this is a very male trait, to be honest.
Let's see.
Is this like, I don't give a fuck about immigrants or whatever? Like, this is about, this is our country. Get out of here. All that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When you really think about it, people were here. Their kids are born here. They're citizens. They've never, ever, ever been anywhere else. Mm-hmm. What are you talking about? You're going to send them to a country where they don't speak the language just because of they look like the people from there or whatever? Like, what are we talking about?
It doesn't make any sense. And why? And like if they're like productive members of society or students or kids, like it just doesn't make any sense.
Right. And I'm open to talking about changing the amount of people we let into this country. Like, I'll look at some stats. Like, I think everyone agreed that we had an immigration problem before this all happened. But then this extreme fight against immigration became inhumane. And then again, another example where the conversation feels like it doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
We used to have like normal conversations about immigration where we'd actually talk about what does it actually mean, and now we just talk about kids in cages. You know?
I know. Yeah, totally.
And now we're talking about ICE coming to people's houses and just like I've spoken to people before who have conversations with their kids like, if I don't come home, it means ICE got me. Like, especially in California.
Yeah, and on Twitter and stuff, you see a lot of like warnings like, hey, ICE is at this corner. Stay away from here. Or like,
Right.
if you know anyone who lives in this neighborhood in San Antonio, like tell them not, here's the, like, there's like infographics of what to do if ICE is coming to town, like how to avoid it and how to stay safe. It's crazy.
Right. So on that note, it says Harris said she wants to re-examine and potentially overhaul immigration and customs enforcement. Okay, so she's acknowledging we need change there. Okay, which is, again, I think no one disagrees with that. Even, I mean, God, if you remember when Trump was talking about the wall, everyone was like, we do need to work on immigration. This is just not a good use of money. Most people are not climbing any walls. God, I can't even believe we have to talk about shit like this.
Stupid ass wall.
Most people overstay their visas, okay?
And it's not just from one country. It's like, how can you going to build a wall around the entire nation, like all of its borders?
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
A guy I know who actually passed away very recently. I don't think we have this totally confirmed, but I believe from COVID. Okay. He was from England, lived in this country for like 40 years. Didn't come over on the fucking Mayflower or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
He just came here for vacation one year and never left.
Interesting.
Okay?
Wow.
And now that's illegal to do, but that's more along the lines of, and this guy didn't have kids, right? He didn't have any kids, but his kids would have been American citizens, right?
Right.
So we're like, that's more what's happening. So if we want to talk about that kind of immigration reform, fine. But building a wall, it's if you're somebody else's, I don't think anyone listens to my podcast who thinks the wall was a good idea.
And the wall, like when you see it, it's like the sections of it that have been constructed. It's like I could just walk around this if I wanted to.
Right. Oh my, yeah, I know. How much wall has he built? I forgot how much. It's such a small amount of wall.
I've seen the like panel of it that's been erected, and it's pretty unimpressive. I used to work at a job where we had a lot of Chinese researchers who would come over on visas, and in more than one instance, they would disappear and bounce, like not turn up for, like they would just be here now. So, it's like you said, it's not people climbing walls. Like there's many ways to come here and immigrate illegally. It's not just like people sneaking over the border.
Right. All right, I'm gonna take a pee break.
Okay, pee break, guys. Playing a song.
All right, we're back. But yeah, like, talking about immigration. I mean, like, one thing about immigration is interesting is that you do read about, like, did you watch The Americans?
No.
So, like, there is a real thing. This is real stuff that does happen in this country. And it is actually a problem. And I don't know how much of a problem, honestly, and maybe we'll look it up for another RGN thing, is that, like, our policy is if you're born in this country, you're an American citizen. So Russian spies come over here and have kids. Right, that's the show The Americans is about. Like, they have kids. They're two Russian spies. They have kids, and then they're filling the kids in on what they do as they start getting older, being like, here's the deal, right? And I've heard that the Chinese do this. By the way, I'm saying I haven't looked this up or anything, but I've heard it from reputable people. So I'm saying it just all right. But with regular guy, common sense. If I was China and you're trying to, you have, well, this is what I would do. I would exploit this policy. Right? I would come over here, have a bunch of kids, make them they're American citizens. Now we have access to America through our own people. It's a fucking great idea. So there might be a flaw in that policy. Again, a conversation we're willing to have, but we're talking about a wall.
A physical wall.
Yeah. So I don't even know what we're talking about. Right? Like, yeah. Anyway, so while she was serving as San Francisco district attorney, she supported a city policy that turned immigrant minors without authorization to live in the U.S. over to ICE if they were arrested or believed they had committed a felony. Okay, so supported a city policy that turned immigrant minors without authorization to live in the U.S. So she's saying that she was cool turning people over to ICE. Is that what I'm reading?
That may be what you're reading.
This is a weird sentence. She supported a city policy that turned immigrant minors without authorization to live in the U.S. over to ICE. Yes, if they're arrested or believed to have committed a felony. Cool. So, again, that's something that people have a problem with. And, you make your own decision about that. It seems like when she was – so another stat I had read about her, where is that? Is that she when she was the district attorney of San Francisco, she takes a lot of shit for her conviction records, right? So she inherited a 50% felony conviction rate in 2004. And the felony conviction rate rose to 53% in 2005. To 66% in 2006, the highest in a decade. The felony conviction rate continued to rise, reaching 76% in 2009. Convictions of drug dealers increased from 56% in 2003 to 74% in 2006. So she takes a lot of shit, especially from people now. We're in this age of that's why they call her top cop. So she takes a lot of shit for this.
Well, I also just want to point out that in 2016 or sometime after when she was in the Senate, her campaign did kind of like roll back their feelings on the immigrant minors policy in San Francisco.
Okay.
And they did admit that the policy could have been applied more fairly. And she was largely supporting Gavin Newsom, who was then the mayor of San Francisco, who's now our governor, supporting his stance. And San Francisco, because San Francisco was a sanctuary city at the time. So, they've kind of backpedaled on that since then.
Right. And another stuff that she takes a lot of criticism for. And by the way, this is stuff she takes criticism for from the let's just call it the extreme left. Maybe I don't know if it's totally the extreme left, but let's just say the left. Is she had a truancy initiative, which is being like she was saying that kids not going to school and dropouts are a risk to the city. So it was like she was putting in a very aggressive program and penalties for kids not going to school.
Right.
So that was to try to keep people safe. So I think that, again, a knock on her is that she's a little too law and ordery for the left, especially now with the left with the new not new lens, but like seems to be the new a very hot topic is the lens of how we do our policing and defunding the police, reallocating resources to police, and seeing understanding socioeconomically why people commit crimes. Right. So she's on the opposite side of that in some people's mind. That being said, I think this is a plus for the right. I think that in terms of Biden choosing her, I know why, because for the undecided voter, hearing that she's more law and order, it's kind of undercuts Trump's whole law and order thing, being like, well, look, we're not, if you see the commercials, and we're talking about winning, if you see the commercials for Trump, it's literally a answering machine at the 911. Have you seen this commercial?
No, I have not seen this.
Okay, so this is an actual ad for Trump that they play on CNN too. It's not just on Fox News and blah, blah, right? Mm-hmm. It's literally, it's like an answering machine. You've reached 911 due to defunding. This is almost in quotes, but I'm going from memory. But I've seen this commercial so many times. Due to defunding the police, we have cut back our resources, and our response time will be 5 days. Press 1 if you've been raped. This is literally in the commercial. Press 2 if you've been hurt. Blah blah blah, and then it's like this has been paid for by. I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. It's like if you let Joe Biden, this is what's going to happen to the presidency. So with having Kamala Harris here, who's responsible, you completely undercut that message. So it's a winning strategy by Biden, but I understand why this would upset some people.
Sure.
You know?
Yes.
Okay, so that's something you just take into your own. Interesting. Okay, so now I'm seeing some light on this stuff. All right, let's move over to climate change.
Oh,
she's a supporter of the Green New Deal, which hopes to transition the U.S. to 100% clean and renewable energy in 10 years and stimulate the economy with millions of new jobs. I'm a big proponent of the Green New Deal. Seems like a no fucking brainer for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? Like instead of somebody coming out and talking about clean coal, which is what Trump did, it's not.
Right.
That's not a thing.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It does not exist.
But I feel like we can take those skills and port it over to new renewable energy. Everyone in this town's driving plug-in cars. My car is a plug-in. Like, where are we going? Let's stop going backwards. Let's go forwards. Mm-hmm. So we make a Green New Deal. Take people. If you worked in coal, let's have a system for retraining coal people, right?
Well, that's the thing. I think the whole coal thing, it's like, oh, the voters hear coal. It's like, hey, I work in coal, or like I'm from like Northeast Pennsylvania where it's coal country. But like, it doesn't have to be, it could be even more job opportunities in green energy.
Right. As California's Attorney General, she investigated whether ExxonMobil lied about its research on climate change. And she has a 100% lifetime score based on her voting record from the League of Conservation Voters.
Okay.
So climate change is a big deal to me, personally. And she's on that, but she's on that tip, and that's if you care about it or you don't. I don't know. I can't make up that for you, but you know where she stands on the side of climate change being real and combating it, not pulling out of the Paris climate deal. In September, Harris laid out a climate plan to make the U.S. carbon neutral by 2045, which cost $10 trillion in private and public investment. She said she directed the Department of Justice to prosecute fossil fuel companies. She supports a tax on carbon and suggested she'd allow states to decide whether they use nuclear energy. Okay, so pretty much green. She's hard left on climate change,
which is fair. I think that's if you're going to go hard left on an issue, like do it on the climate,
right. So
we can all get behind that.
Yeah, if you want to dig her or not on climate change, if you're anti-climate change, blah blah blah, then you won't like her. You probably are voting for Trump anyway.
Yeah, if you're anti-climate change, log off.
Right. Campaign finance. This is actually a huge issue for me. Like a growing number of Democrats, Harris no longer takes donations from corporate political action committees as of April 2018. Nearly 65% of Harris's campaign funding between 2015 and 2018 came from individual donors who gave more than $200. A project of the Center for Responsive Politics. That's whatever. That's okay. That's the source. Just under 5% has come from corporate PACs. I like that.
That's rad.
Biden's full on super PAC, old, But the thing about Biden is that, like, yes, that is true, but also, this is who he chose to run with, right? So,
right.
I feel like he's acknowledging that he's passing this over to the future, and I kind of like that he's playing the old game because we have old time politics as the opponent.
Exactly.
That's my mind.
And our voters, like it's like
right.
There's people like us, but then there's old school voters who do like Biden and probably are on board with that method of fundraising.
Okay, on abortion, she's just full on pro choice.
Let's get them.
I mean, that's just yeah. Yeah, there's nothing that we can go into her stats here. I already told you a story about Kavanaugh, which is actually listed here. She grilled Kavanaugh really hard. She's known for that. That was a big moment for her in 2018. Confirmation hearing, yeah. Okay, so she's pro-choice. Boom. All the candidates would be pro-choice on the left. So if that's a deal breaker for you, then I guess vote for Trump. I don't know.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
On paid leave, Harris is okay. So paid leave, giving new parents. Okay, what is it? She did not specify how much the plan will cost. Harris's broad paid leave plan, including giving new parents and other caregivers up to 6 months off paid work. Right. So she's into that paid leave. It's fine. Okay, Kira. Big topic: LGBTQ rights. Harris has supported legalized same marriage, and she did not defend California's law that prohibited gay marriage while she was the state attorney general. I think she's talking about Prop 8. Was it Prop 8?
8, maybe.
I
wasn't a Californian at the time.
Me either. But that was a big deal because California voted for it somehow, right? Okay. She supported transgender people's rights to use the bathroom of their choice during her time as attorney general, but she requested that the government not move forward with providing a prison inmate gender reassignment surgery. Okay. So that's something I saw her get dinged for.
Right. I was seeing that. I didn't know the specifics, but I saw that also.
Okay. So it's interesting. So that is, I wonder where she stands on that now, because she was the district attorney since 2011, which, not to be insensitive, but I'm saying trans rights were not a big issue then.
They were not the issue of the day like they are now.
Right.
So there's, I think, a lot more public knowledge about just trans lives, and trans rights is so much more of a thing these days that hopefully if she's a supporter of LGBT rights, she also supports the T, Yeah,
but the interesting thing is, look at the wording of this, and this is like why I want to start the podcast. It's like, okay, so it's like the government but she requested that the government not move forward with providing a prison inmate gender reassignment program. Actually, there's a link here to this. Ooh, this might give me the answer to my question.
A secondary source.
Right. Yeah, so here's an article, and this article is from May 2015. Okay? Harris seeks to block gender reassignment for trans inmate. What's a quote from her? There's no evidence that irreversible. This is here. It says, on the other hand, the record demonstrates that defense. Okay, well, whatever. This is something. Let's see if I can find the thing. This was. They might have made a new request on behalf of her state to halt the district court ruling in favor of gender reassignment surgery for a transgender inmate. So she specifically went out of her way. So this is actually my question for this. Okay, there's no evidence that that irreversible treatment is immediately necessary before the appeal can be heard and factual record. Okay, whatever. We don't need to get into the details on this, but
Yeah.
this actually answers my question, which is like, my question was, I feel like when you see these, they say, oh, they voted against this, that. But a lot of this stuff is like bundled, and a lot of it is budget stuff. So you're like, sometimes, are you actively going against this, or you didn't include transgender reassignment surgery in the budget? That's what my question always is. Because a lot of times I feel like people spin it,
right.
You know what I mean? To be like, oh, they're against this, when really it's like, oh, well,
a larger issue.
Yes, and a lot of times things people vote on, that's when she's district attorney, but especially when you're in the Senate and Congress, you making a compromise package where you vote yes on something that bundles a bunch of laws just to get another thing through, and then you to make progress, you vote for it, and then it's like, oh, she voted for this. And that's something I always thought was cool. Bernie Sanders would always point that out. Okay, but in this case, if we're going with the facts of the day here, she actually went out of her way. So,
well, in September, Harris did address this during an event, and she said that when this case regarding inmates gender affirming surgery, she said, when that case came up, I had clients, and one of them was the California Department of Corrections. It was their policy. When I learned about what they were doing behind the scenes, I got them to change the policy. So if she was working for California DOC at the time, and they're her client, and it says she did get them to change the policy, one might look into what their policy was and what it was changed to after that. And she also said in a interview with a trans person who's also a trans advocate that she is here for trans liberation, and basically that she was working for the state when she was assigned those cases to prosecute. So
right. Okay, so interesting.
So she has done work to kind of go back on what happened in the past.
Yeah, okay, good information. I feel like, again, look at what we're doing. Just laying out, here are the facts. Everyone, I'm not trying to push any agenda. I'm just going through what is her deal. So take that. If that is a deal breaker for you, well then, I don't know. Reassess. I don't know. We only have these two choices.
Make your list of pros and cons and
absolutely.
See where it lands.
But it's stuff to keep in mind because she's going to be a future face of the Democratic Party, and is that something you want? Like, she could be the VP, but the question really is like, probably Joe Biden is a one-term president. That's what we're looking at. And then it would be her, like, ideal. I think that's kind of what the view is that she's the next presidential candidate that going there. But maybe, you want if Biden gets elected, then during that time, you start supporting another Democratic candidate who could beat her in a primary election.
That's true. And I mean, I also think it's important just to remember that all of our politicians, the ones that we love and support or don't, like, are a product of their time. So back when some of this stuff happened, things were different than they are in 2020. And that goes for Biden and Harris. So
well, it definitely goes for Biden.
Yeah, we need to look at like where we are now and what they're willing to do for us in the next 4 years, and hope that they're changed for the better.
Absolutely. The funny thing with Biden is that, like, Biden has so many deal breakers that are not remotely deal breakers when you look at the fact that his opponent is Donald Trump.
100%.
Like,
Absolutely.
Biden has been caught, I think, 2 times just stealing speeches like that. Have you ever seen that video of him just saying that British guy's speech?
No.
Oh my God. It is so crazy. He just literally would, like, I would talk about, like, I don't know, in the 80s when he was running for president. But the thing about that is that happened like 20 something years ago, right? So you think Biden learned his lesson from that? How much time? Yeah, 30 years. How much time do you get to be forgiven for that?
Right. What's the statute on speech stealing?
Right. So he made a mistake. He made he made a mistake. That's fine. Okay. Maybe it's a stupid mistake. But, like, Trump's making mistakes that are costing lives right now. So you know what I mean?
He's not just stealing speech. I mean, if he stole a speech from someone who knew what they were talking about, it wouldn't be a bad thing. But he's delivering misinformation to people who aren't smart enough to fact check it. Like Fox News.
Absolutely. Last thing I'll say is that when she was the district attorney of San Francisco, she created a hate crimes unit to prosecute crimes against LGBTQ youth. So Okay. All right. Uh, all right. On guns. I mean, she supports a ban on assault weapons. And when she was the California District Attorney General, she initiated a statewide gun sweep that confiscated weapons from those who had them illegally. Harris had promised that if she's elected, she would push for a law allowing Americans to request that a federal court restrict a person's ability to get a gun if they're shown. So she's anti-assault weapons and not that pro-gun. So that's just something to know.
Right.
Right.
In a country that has like the worst record for
She's
mass
pretty hard on
shootings.
guns.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't need to. That's just where are you at on the Second Amendment? That's a personal decision.
Add it to your pro list. Add it to your cons list.
Harris has signed on to, this is for education, Sanders' College for All Act, which would waive tuition for all students attending public colleges and universities whose families make $125,000 a year or less. When it comes to this stuff, she supports expanding early childhood education. This is shit that she wants to raise teachers' pay. I mean, this is stuff just has to happen yesterday. I mean,
no brainer,
right? Yeah, I mean, we cannot have these colleges costing $300,000 for an education that barely gets you a job. I mean,
right, and
yeah.
leaves whole generations of people in drowning in debt.
Right. So she's pretty pro education reform. She signed Bernie Sanders' bill. So that's about as far left as you go on education. Interesting. We talked a lot about criminal justice stuff. And let's see. Foreign policy. She supports a political solution to the war in Afghanistan and wants to end U.S. military involvement in the country. She voted against a Senate resolution condemning Trump's withdrawal of U.S. troops from Syria. She voted against a Senate resolution condemning Trump's withdrawal of U.S. troops. So she was pro pulling out. She wants to get troops out of places. She opposed Trump's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal. She said that Trump got, this is a quote, talk about pro wrestling, got punked by Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
But she's pretty badass in interviews. I've seen her a couple times on CNN. She pops on and she's strong. It's you know what I mean? She's a strong supporter of the Israeli government's close ties to the U.S., calling the bond between the two countries, quote, unbreakable. She told a 2017 gathering of the American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee that she would do everything in my power to ensure broad and bipartisan support for Israel's security and right to self-defense. So, yeah, if you're pro-Israel, she seems to be very strongly pro-Israel. As a Jewish person, I am happy to hear that. You go wherever you want with that. But she doesn't seem to be from this stuff. Doesn't seem to be too much of a warmonger from what I'm reading.
Well, that's good.
Seems to be wanting to pull out of useless wars, but also be tough on places like Iran and on nuclear powers, and keeping away from the wrong people. Okay, cool.
Yep.
On housing, she proposed providing a $4 million black family. Proposed providing up to 4 million black families whose neighborhoods have historically been redlined or discriminated against, with up to $25,000 to help them buy a home.
Oh, that's good.
Housing is a big problem, especially if you live in California and Los Angeles. You understand, we have an actual housing crisis, which goes across the board. People who have money can't buy houses. There's no houses. And then people who don't have any houses, people who can't afford the low income housing. It just doesn't even exist. People are intense all over the place. So I know from California, she's probably, that's why as soon as July 2019. Yeah. Okay. On taxes, she criticized the GOP tax cuts of 2017. She said middle-class tax hike. She called it this was Trump's big tax push. Remember, they celebrated in the Rose Garden over this tax push. She middle-class tax hike to line the pockets of already wealthy corporations and the 1%. That is, as somebody, I have a CPA license, taxes. This is 100% the truth. I've done a lot of people's taxes, and people are paying more in taxes. Most people, you know.
Yes. I can attest to that. I have paid a lot in taxes when before I didn't. And also you just like I've seen on Twitter like people getting $1 refunds with no change to their withholdings or anything like that. So
Right.
that's something that we all I think can feel.
Yeah, and she has introduced something she calls Lift the Middle Class Act, which would give a $3,000 refundable tax credit to people making $50,000 or less, and a $6,000 credit to couples making $100,000 or less. She said she would get rid of some of Trump's tax cuts and jobs, and she would get rid of some cuts in Trump's tax cuts and Jobs Act to help pay for it. Okay, so to pay for it, she said that she would get – basically she wants to give a cut to people's personal tax returns and get rid of some of the corporate cuts that Trump had.
Seems fair.
Cool. Okay, so let's talk about – oh, let's see, this article is so good. What are some of Harris's political successes? She extracted $25 billion from Wall Street to compensate California homeowners from following the financial crisis. That was probably in 2008, right?
Yeah.
She won a $1.1 billion settlement against a for-profit college chain over allegations of predatory illegal practices. That's when she was Attorney General. She's become a well-known voice as the anti-Trump resistance. She's endorsed a host of progressive policies, including Medicare for all and an overhaul on ICE. Now, that being said, she's also backed away from Medicare for all, so I think this kind of like a knock against her. Is that people don't know exactly where she stands on that stuff. She, as Attorney General, she prioritized the prosecution of transnational gangs and weapons, drugs, and human traffickers. Human trafficking, a hot button issue, as Trump has wished well human traffickers.
He loves human trafficking.
Yeah.
Especially sex trafficking.
Did you notice, we've seen a ton of pictures of Trump with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, and did you notice that he put $59 million into help the victims of human trafficking? Almost like he's getting ready to be named.
Oh, God. Well.
That's me being speculatory. I don't actually know that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty safe that he and Ghislaine and Jeff were pretty tight.
That's for sure. He wished her well. He did it
Wished
again,
her well.
too.
I mean, her
So
boyfriend
weird.
was killed. You know?
And was it even her boyfriend? I didn't even know that.
On the Axios interview, he called it her boyfriend like 12 times.
So fucking weird.
Yeah. And like you wish her well, like you hope she doesn't get mysteriously killed in prison.
Right. Okay. So anyway, that seems to be the most stuff about her. They said, okay, here's the deal. This is interesting. This is how voters feel about Harris's qualifications. Okay. Okay. Okay, it says attributes perceived as most valuable for her is her tax returns. People were cool with that. Her position in the Senate, her status as a child of immigrants, people like. The fact that she was an attorney general, the district attorney, and a lawyer. That's all stuff that they said good. Stuff that they said would be a liability. People that were polled said that her history being a prosecutor. Some people didn't like that.
Sure.
And that she was born in a wealthy household. That she came up in a wealthy household. People don't like that. I guess you don't like Trump then? I mean, that's you're gonna not give her a knock.
That's like a blue blood household. Her dad was Jamaican and like a Stanford professor, and then her mom was a breast cancer researcher. So,
right,
a little different than like deep pockets, blue blood, East Coast money.
Yeah. So basically, like this is what I found was interesting about her is like the way I summed it up is. I liked this. I found in another article. It said, in ideological terms, Harris is well to the left of Biden, let alone the 50th Democratic vote in a hypothetical 2021 Senate. That's because like the tie would go to the VP, right?
Right.
But in an ideal world, given Biden's own lack of wonk chops, it would be nice if his second in command had assembled a stronger set of signature policies, or more precisely, a strong policy staff. So it seems to be that that's where she gets dinged, is that, she moved on Medicare for All. She seems to be a little bit of a chameleon, Chameleon Harris, many are calling her, by the way. Many mean.
I think Tucker Carlson called her that on air.
That'd be a great knock against her, Chameleon Harris. Look at her; she stands for nothing. I mean, if you want it, take it, I guess. But yeah, you could see. But I think that, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't have. I guess people are holding the VP to such a high standard now because you have a president. We have a guy who's older. That's really what it is.
Right.
But yeah, also not to mention, we haven't said this, and I think it's just because it doesn't fall into the true fact sheet, but it is a historic. She is the first black woman of a black woman / Indian descent to be nominated as a vice presidential or any presidential candidate. Yeah, so that's a huge deal, and you could see, I mean, the amount of people who are extremely ecstatic about that. You can never ever, people getting representation is always a positive thing. It makes, and especially we need more positives. We need people to feel like they matter more. You know,
100%.
So, Aaron, anything that you wanted to add from your list that I didn't get to there, or you felt like would be a good add on?
No, I think we about covered it. I just wanted to say that CNN summarized Fox News's reaction to the announcement of Kamala Harris's VP position. And the headline of their article was, Fox News throws everything but the kitchen sink at Kamala Harris. And they basically just did a run through of everything that was said yesterday on TV. And a few highlights were, it's notable that Tucker Carlson, who has a habit of mispronouncing the names of people he doesn't like on air to the point where it's become like a feature of his show, mispronounced her name repeatedly yesterday. So, and he also went on to say,
what does he call her, Kamala or Kamala? Like, what does he even say?
I didn't watch it, but he did deliberately. He denied it,
like the
but
wrestler.
He mispronounced her name. He said that she is the single most transactional human being in America. There are timeshare salesmen you could trust more, and payday lenders who are more sincere. Take that quote and do with it what you will. Weigh it against President Trump, and make the call there.
Cool.
Hannity and Trump teamed up to bash Kamala Harris when he phoned into the program.
Right.
Let's see.
To say what their big knocks are against her?
Well, they said that her being selected solidifies this ticket as the most radical, far left mainstream ticket in American history.
But
they're calling her an extremist.
That doesn't feel true. I mean, that feels like fear mongering. We looked at these stats here. Like, I don't think that this seemed. It seemed pretty. I mean, look, going into this woman has like a 40-year career or 30-year career or something. Like, she's 55 years old, right? So, I mean, 35-year career probably in law. I mean, I would say we're not going through her whole catalog here, her whole record,
right?
But it did not feel like she was so to the left. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, and I think they wish that was the case, but Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are as left as it gets. AOC's,
right?
She's not in that camp at all.
Right. Not only that, but if she has this decades-long career as a prosecutor and as a lawyer and attorney general, like, you are there to uphold the law. There is no radicalizing of, law. It just is. And they also, let's see. Oh, they also speculated whether or not Biden actually picked her himself. And yeah,
What are these guys talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I try
just
to,
like two idiots on the phone talking to one another, and
yeah, I mean, it's
it would have been the same regardless of who the candidate was, is what it seems like. This is just kind of canned
well, that's what
bullshit.
that's what I'm hearing is that, like, and
Yeah,
look, again, I'm a left leaning guy. Um, I, I mean, this election is like a joke for me. I mean, I'll never vote for Donald Trump. There's nothing he could ever say or do to make me
no,
vote for that idiot. Um, I even believe. I think some of Trump's behavior is arguably treasonous. So I mean, like, this fact that we haven't looked into this Russian bounty situation, whatever.
yeah,
Um, and just the way he's handling this crisis, it doesn't matter. But to look at this and say that some extreme left, when people, but then on the left they're accusing her of not even of being having transphobic policy decisions.
yeah.
So it's like, what are they even talking about? I mean, are they gonna really fool people with that? I mean, they need a
Right.
stronger argument against her,
They need a stronger argument, but I think when it
which is
comes to
what?
their audience, it's just like by using words like extremist and radical, it again, like they could have said it about any candidate and it would have probably gotten the same reaction from their viewers.
Right. I guess, but I mean, if you look at her, like, she's pretty law and order. She was prosecuting people
Use the
left and
law.
right. She literally raised this, San Francisco. She was putting people in jail left and right. So,
Right.
I don't know. They're going to have to come up. I mean, listen, I don't know what's going to happen in this election. What do I know? Last time they were saying Hillary was going to win, but they need some, I just know that the right, they need stronger arguments against these people because
Yeah.
Biden's going to keep speaking. He's not coming off as out of it as they're making him seem.
No. It's different when you could take a clip of anyone, slow it down, pause it at an unflattering moment and be like, "Oh, look at this old man."
Right. So I don't
But
know.
it
We'll
doesn't
see
make
where
any
it goes.
Yeah.
They're already starting to get ugly. I do, from my perspective, if Trump's going to go really low like he did against Hillary Clinton, I don't think people hate Joe Biden and Kamala Harris the way that they hate Hillary Clinton. And
Yeah.
Clinton, she's an establishment candidate. He's botching a crisis. I don't know. I don't know what. Another thing I read about Trump is that he is not really wanting to do a lot of appearances. He only wants to do rallies. He only likes the rallies, and they're saying we can't do. Keep telling him you can't do the rallies. I mean, we have a pandemic going on, so you need to go to factories. And then I was reading that this is leaked from his advisors.
Yeah.
I tend to believe it's true. I mean, take it with a
Mhm.
grain of salt, but this is leaked. And this is probably from a Washington Post or something super liberal.
Yeah.
They're saying that he doesn't want to go to factories and stuff to do like small appearances because he's like, I'm promoting other businesses that I don't own.
That
what
I
I'm
don't own.
Like, he's like, oh, why would I? Or I think it's like, why would I give them free publicity?
Right.
So, this mentality, I don't see. He seems so out of touch. They're saying now he thinks that he's doing well and he's turning it around. So,
Well, he also thinks that the world is going back to normal. He has declared it, so it must be like things are fine again.
yeah, I mean, let's just look quickly before we go.
Meanwhile,
Polling Biden, Trump right now. Let's see. Biden leads Trump in 5 of 6 battleground states, is what the Hill says right now. Another, 538, which, by the way, called it wrong last time. That's what Nate Silver said. It's way too soon to count Trump out. Fox Business says polls are wrong. Trump will beat Biden.
wow.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't see how you. Just look where we're headed right now, as of today. As of
Mhm.
today, some schools are opening. They're closing down. All the sports are saying that we're going to stop. Like, all the college sports are going to say we're not going to play. His
Yeah.
strategy of let's open and ignore the virus, it's not working. And has no federal unified response. So we're going to go into this election still shut down. Parents, whether you like it or not, parents are going to have their kids back either not at school, at home. They're going to go fucking nuts. They're going to say, we got to get this under control. They're going to say, my kid's here. I need them at school. They're either going to have went to school and the schools are going to shut down. They'll be at home by November, assuming they
Mhm.
open in August, September.
Right.
So I don't understand how this is a winning strategy for him, but maybe this country is in worse shape. Maybe people care about the wrong shit more than I don't know. We'll find out. Truly, his argument was like, vote for me. What do you have to lose? That's where Biden's at. Not to mention, people already know, and he's already been the vice president for 8 years and in the Senate for a long time. So I can't imagine you check the box for him again. I can't even see it unless you're like hard religious and that's your number one priority. I don't know. And
even if you are like, maybe take a look again at your candidates. Like the religious thing is not a reasonable excuse. If you're racist, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna be able to convince anybody. Like, if you're, I just mean like if your number one thing is if you're like my number one issue is pro-life, which it is for a lot of people. They're single issue people. Then you're gonna vote for Trump. That's it. Yeah. Like I see people all the time on Facebook who are like, he's protecting the Bible. They don't care that he's not religious. They're like, he's protecting religion. Right. If you're that, you're voting for Trump no matter what. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's not enough people for him to win. Right. Right. Yeah. And we'll see where the mail stuff goes. This country's in for a rough ride the rest of this year. Mm-hmm. And we'll be here delivering you the regular guy news. Yeah, we'll be looking into every week. So you heard it. Some facts about Kamala Harris. To me, sounds like a pretty solid. Seems like a pretty solid pick to me. Mm-hmm. Nothing crazy radical. I don't know. Nothing seemed radical. If anything, it seemed radical in a way where if you're extreme left, you might have a problem with her. And maybe I guess that she already went back on Medicare for all. Joe Biden's ticket is not for Medicare for all. They're for Obamacare, which Trump has came up with no healthcare solution in the middle of a health crisis. All they've done is roll back health stuff, and now so we have. Our health insurance is tied to our jobs, which we don't have. I don't know. This whole thing is mind-blowing to me that anyone would even vote for Trump at all. And I'll just one last thing. John Kasich. Well, I will always have respect for John Kasich, who is going to be speaking. He's a lifelong Republican. He will be speaking at the Democratic National Convention for Joe Biden. He says, I disagree with Joe Biden. When he gets in office, I'll go against him. But he's like, this guy Trump he's got to go. And props to John Kasich. Yeah, big time. That's it. Him and Mitt Romney are two dudes that if they run for president again, I will give them a proper look. Even though I will look at them. And if the guy on the left is like, even like The Rock, like it's right, even a man I love so much. Listen, I'm voting for people who know what they're fucking doing. Right. Yeah. All right, RGN. Aaron, I feel like we wrapped it up. I think we did. Yep. All right, if you like what you're listening to here, and we're giving you, we're just going through the facts here. What do you need to know? That's the deal with Kamala Harris. That's where she stands. And this is the information. So you make your own assessment. Besides, when you're going to go, because this is going to happen. You're going to go talk to your friend. They're going to spout out some shit. One talking point. I do it. Regurgitate something at parties. We say it, right? Yeah. And they go, oh, she's bad. She's bad. Did you listen to this? Here's the stuff. I don't fucking know what I'm talking about. Here it is. This is the stats. This is what she stands for. Doesn't sound so bad to me. Right. Now you know. Tell your friends to listen to Regular Guy News. If it sounds like shit to you, leave us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts. And we legally have to read your comment on the show. So you can dog us, tell us why we're wrong, call me a commie, whatever you want to do. And that's it. And also, if you have a question you want us to tackle, we will look into it with at least 2 articles. Email regularguynews@gmail.com. Yep. Hit up the RGN mailbag. That's right. All right, everybody. Thank you for stopping by for another strong week. Powerful stuff. We are hitting you guys with all the regular guy news. I am Dan Black, the anchor of RGN, the least pretentious name in news. Aaron, thanks for stopping by. And everybody, thank you, Dan. Signing off. Stay safe and stay regular.